Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive.
Always. What are we exploring today?
This time, we're tackling the Gospel of John.
Ah, John. It's a popular one, and for good reason.
It's known as the most spiritual gospel, right?
Mm.
But what makes it so special?
Well, it's interesting, John really goes deep into the relationship between Jesus and God, really emphasizing this idea of Jesus as the Son of God.
Okay, so it's not just a retelling of Jesus' life then.
Right. It's more like a theological exploration. John wants his readers to understand who Jesus really is and how that changes everything.
To guide us on this journey, we've got these incredible sermons from Pastor Steve.
Oh, I've heard of him. He's got quite a following.
He does, and in these sermons, he dives headfirst into one of John's biggest themes, eternal life.
Eternal life. That's a big one. Everyone wants to know about that.
Right. But Pastor Steve points out that John isn't just talking about living forever, but about experiencing a different kind of life, like a life that starts right now.
Interesting. What does he mean by that? Well, remember that word knowing that pops up in John. It's not just about having facts in your head, but about a deep personal relationship with God.
Ah, I see. Like, it's not enough just to know about God. You have to actually know God.
Exactly. It reminds me of that verse from John 17:3. This is eternal life, that they know you, the one true God, and Jesus Christ whom you have sent.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty powerful.
And what blows my mind is that John conveys these profound ideas in such simple language.
Really? I always thought the Bible was known for its complex wording.
Well, John wrote in Koine Greek, the common language of his day. So imagine everyone back then, from scholars to fishermen, they could all understand his message.
That's pretty incredible. Makes you realize the power of simplicity when it comes to profound truths, right?
Absolutely. And John doesn't shy away from challenging his readers. He tackles this radical concept of God becoming human.
I mean, that must have been mind-blowing for his original audience, right? To think that the divine, the all-powerful God would actually choose to become human.
Right. It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It really is. It makes you rethink everything you thought you knew about God.
Now, another thing that jumped out at me was Pastor Steve's observation about the number 7 in John. Apparently, it shows up everywhere.
Oh, like a secret code.
Right. Like there are 7 I am statements where Jesus reveres his divine nature and 7 miracles that demonstrate his power.
7. I'm sensing a theme here. What's the significance of that number anyway?
I'm glad you asked. Let's dive into that next time. Okay, so last time we were talking about the number 7 and how it seems to pop up all over John's gospel. What's the big deal with that number anyway?
Well, it has a lot of significance in Jewish and Christian tradition, actually.
Really? Tell me more about that.
Well, for one thing, it often represents completeness or fullness. Like, think about the 7 days of creation.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Or the 7 sacraments in some traditions.
Right.
It's like this perfect whole number.
Yeah.
And so when John uses it, it adds this extra layer of meaning,
I see what you mean. So it's like he's emphasizing Jesus's complete divinity, his connection to God's fullness.
Exactly. And it's just one example of how John uses symbolism and deeper layers of meaning to get his message across. It's really fascinating when you start to notice it.
It really is. Now, there was this other point Pastor Steve made that kind of stuck with me. He talked about how the darkness didn't just misunderstand the light, it hated it.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That's a powerful image.
It is, isn't it? And it made me think about how some people just seem to reject truth even when it's staring them right in the face.
Right, like they're choosing to stay in the dark.
Exactly. Because the light, it can be uncomfortable, It exposes things we might not want to see.
Absolutely. Sometimes facing the truth about ourselves is the hardest thing of all.
So true. Now, I have to admit, when Pastor Steve started talking about memorizing passages from John, I wasn't so sure about that.
Yeah, I get it. Seems a bit old school, doesn't it?
Like, why bother when you can just look it up on your phone anytime?
Right. But, there's something to be said about having those words ingrained in your memory, really internalizing them.
Yeah, I guess I can see that.
It's like those words become a part of you, and they can come to you at the most unexpected times, like a source of strength or comfort when you need it most.
That's actually really beautiful. I never thought of it like that.
It's true. Exactly. It's like this universal human impulse to connect with something bigger than ourselves, something timeless.
I like that. to carry those words of wisdom with us, let them shape how we see the world.
Exactly.
Thinking back to something else Pastor Steve talked about, he seemed pretty set on the authenticity of the Bible.
Yeah, he really emphasized that, huh? How it's a book that has stood the test of time.
Exactly. It's easy to get caught up in all the debates about whether the Bible is true or not. But Pastor Steve, well, he approached it from a different angle.
Right, he focused on how it's impacted people's lives for centuries, provided comfort, guidance, even sparked huge changes in people's lives.
And that impact all those lives touched across generations, well, that has to mean something, right?
It really does make you wonder. Points to some deeper truth within those pages, something about the human experience that continues to resonate even today. And this is actually where I find Pastor Steve's focus on John so interesting. Because John, perhaps more than the other gospel writers, he really wrestles with that idea of truth.
How so?
Well, just think about the way John uses the word truth. It's not just about facts and figures, It's about a deeper reality, a spiritual truth that connects us to something much bigger than ourselves.
Kind of like that idea we were discussing before, about truly knowing God, not just knowing about him.
Precisely. John's inviting us to go beyond a surface-level understanding of truth, to embrace a truth that has the power to transform us at our very core.
And that's what it's all about, right?
Right.
Not just reading words on a page, but letting those words actually change us.
100%. And that's a challenge we can carry with us beyond our exploration of John. What if we faced all of life's big questions, all the mysteries that life throws at us, with that same openness to truth, that same willingness to be transformed by it?
That's a powerful thought to end on. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into John, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from all of this?
I think it would be this. Don't be afraid to really dig deep, to wrestle with those tough questions, to be open to a truth that has the potential to change you for the better. Who knows, maybe in the process you might just discover something profound about yourself and your place in the world.
I love that.